So the only one of the evil gum trio we haven't seen again is Aunt Lolly. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with my blind reaction to episodes 8 through 10 of Season 10 of Adventure Time. And yeah, as I said in the cold open, we've seen Cousin Cheekley, we've seen Uncle Gumball, but we haven't seen Aunt Lolly since, I guess since they got turned back. I think, she was briefly there when, they were revealed to be inside the horse while Fern was the knight and everything in, 17. But it was it was basically a brief cameo. We haven't actually seen her do anything. You know what I mean? I want to actually see her have a role to play. Because Cousin Cheekley, we've seen actually do some stuff. He was in the Marcy and Hunson episode. And obviously we've seen Gumball have an active role. He's, more of the main villain of them all. But we haven't really seen Aunt Lolly do anything. She just was, again, in a small little cameo spot. And I want to see, more from her as well. Because right now, she's kind of just a little bit underutilized, I would say. But we still have some episodes to go before the finale, so I'm sure we'll get more of her. I'm just curious to see what we're going to get, because I believe, if I'm right, we have this week, we have next week, then we have the Minecraft special, and then the finale. I believe that's the order of things currently, based on how we're going to end up doing this. Basically how I'm organizing these episodes. So yeah. Otherwise, I don't really have much of anything to say going into this. I'm just excited to get to more, so let's check it out. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So this was an interesting set of episodes. Well, at least 8 and 10 were. 9 was just nothing. But let's talk about it. I'm actually gonna start with 9 with Bananas, because I want to get this kind of out of the way so I can talk about 8 and 10 kind of together. So, Bananas is a complete nonsense episode, one of Adventure Time's many complete nonsense episodes, that basically just has, while Jake is gone, Finn is just trying to figure out something to do. He ends up reading this old, Mad Comics kind of thing, and he sees that there's a write your own caption comic in there. He writes a caption, thinks it's funny. BMO doesn't think it's funny. He goes to Princess Bubblegum. Is this funny? She actually seems to appreciate it, but the way she words it, is very Princess Bubblegum, and I think it confuses Finn. So he goes to Ice King. Ice King likes it, but also comes up with an alternative, and they end up working together to go to the Banana or the Bleh factory. It's not Banana. It's just Bleh. They go to the printing company using Ice King's wish thing, which I don't remember when that was in here before. I know it was, I just can't remember when. But he uses that. They go to the factory, and with the Gunter's help, who Ice King calls, they make another issue. using their own humor, their own stories, their own like comedy. And they even print Finn's joke as like a printed winner for that submission contest, basically. And then Ice King has the Gunters destroy it all. Finn goes home, basically kind of, I guess, learning that comedy is subjective. And then when he gets home, he slips on all the banana peels because Bimo had been eating bananas, I guess. Falls into his vibrating chair, and that makes Bimo and Neptune laugh. It's such a nothing of an episode. There's like nothing to it. Like I said, Adventure Time has done this a lot, where they'll just have episodes that are just like random, have no like connection to really anything. The only real connection this had is like, Finn is doing all this because Jake is gone at the moment, and he realizes that BRB means be right back. That's literally the only connection. Otherwise, this episode is completely random and needless. And the problem is, like, Season 9 didn't have any episodes like this. And now Season 10 has had 2, because what was the other one? Well, actually, no, 3, because there was Son of Rat Bear, and then you had Ring of Fire. So this is now the 3rd episode that really has nothing to do with anything. And the problem is it's also the worst of the 3. Because Son of Rat Bear was at least pretty interesting, continuing the thing with Phoebe being a rapper and having like some kind of like finality to what the relationship with her and her father is going to be. So there's at least something to that. And then Ring of Fire is kind of like a close to Tree Trunks' character. Like closing her out of the series. She might appear again, but this is her last big hurrah. And we have like this big adventure showing her past and showing all of her different marriages and all. And it's interesting from a character perspective. Both of them are. This one is not. This episode felt completely needless, completely pointless, completely random. It didn't add anything. It just felt like for Season 10, we should be having episodes that focus more on the villains, more on our main characters and stuff going on with them. We saw like PB getting the Candy Kingdom ready for invasion and stuff. I would have rather followed that. That would have been such a much more interesting episode that directly connected to the plot, to the threat of Uncle Gumbald. It would have been like actively interesting. And Finn could have gotten involved with it. Probably in the same way. You could have had it like start with the comic and everything, him going to PB to see if she thought it was funny, and then he could get involved with that instead of going further with Ice King and all. Maybe something comes in and they think it might be related to Uncle Gumball, or maybe it even is. Maybe it's one of his other experiments. And they have to like deal with that or find out maybe it's not something related to him and it's just something else that they have to deal with. That would have been so much more fascinating. That would have been so much better in this time. Because again, like episodes like the other 2 I mentioned, at least give a finality, a closure to these characters. This one doesn't even do that. This one felt completely pointless. Like, this is my least favorite episode in these past 2 seasons so far. And it's not even really close. And again, it wasn't even that it was bad. It wasn't like inherently bad or anything. It was just so actively pointless that it felt like we were just wasting time. It felt like we were just like, we had an episode we could have given something to, but it felt like one of the writers wanted to do something silly. Because it's like, oh, it's season 10, it's our final season. We have to have one last silly episode. That's what it felt like. It just felt like a waste of time. Again, the episode itself wasn't actually that bad. It's just what it like kind of represents being in season 10 as it is. So, we're going to move on from that though and talk about 8 and 10 together. So, episode 8 is the first investigator. Kim Kil-won hires Finn and Jake. Don't know if he's paying them, but he's hiring them to investigate his property, which ends up being Joseph and Margaret's old investigation agency. And so Finn and Jake go to investigate, having heard that apparently this squirrel employee of Kim's went in there, got so scared by something that it was that they were traumatized, basically. So they go in there and start thinking, it's like, oh, this seems like poltergeist stuff. Things are flying around and everything. But eventually they're led to this tape from Joseph and Margaret back in the day. And, like, it shows them, like, dealing with what appears to be the poltergeists as well. However, when searching through the house and starting to see these apparitions appearing, Finn eventually discovers that it's Clockbear, who I believe we've seen before. You know, with this show, it's always hard to tell, but it sounds familiar to me. Clockbear is like wound down, and that's causing these time anomalies to happen. So it's not actually ghosts, it's not poltergeists, it's just slips in time. They're apparitions of people who were here in the past, whether Joseph and Margaret themselves, or babies Finn, Jake, and Jermaine, or even just other people who have, I guess, lived in this building. And so we see kind of the different points in time, and we actually get to see Jake discover where he came from, because we knew about this, but he didn't. But we see that he gets to discover his birth and find out, like, kind of a bit of his origin there. Finn interacts with baby Jake, giving him a wet willy, which kind of like loops the entire thing, because Jake remembers getting a wet willy there when they were babies. So yeah, it's just like the fact that they could interact with the versions from different times too, because we even see Jake interact with the squirrel. The squirrel comes in and Jake is the one that scares them. So it's actually really interesting. I love like kind of timey-wimey shit like that. It's fun. But the big thing is at the end, where Jake's parent, the alien parent who, you know, implanted its DNA into Joseph, and that's how Jake was born, comes to take him away because of some kind of destiny. Jake leaves a note saying BRB, and Finn heads off to do his bullshit, while Jake heads to his parents' home planet. So this goes into Jake the Star Child, which is episode 10. And we learn about Jake's parent, Warren Ampersand, that's a name, I guess. Warren is supposedly dying and is bringing Jake back to the home planet to defeat this ancient evil in order to fulfill a prophecy. However, as Jake starts to discover more of the planet, Warren puts him through these tests. These really difficult tests of his stretching abilities. And it's eventually revealed that it was all a ruse. That he had brought Jake here, put him through all of this just to siphon off his power. And when Jake tricks him and gets his powers back using the same kind of idea, we see that Warren is then, after hearing about them, is planning on siphoning off Jake's children, his own grandchildren in a way. And so Jake has no choice but to stop him and literally hurl him into a black hole, killing him. Jake murdered his biological father or I guess parent. He was calling himself father, so I'll say father. He said he was a proud pop, um so yeah, that's pretty crazy. This little arc, I guess you could call it, though I guess it's not technically over until Jake gets home, which will probably be the next episode, is definitely like kind of a message about parentage, because like with the first investigation, obviously we see like them like thinking back to and how much they love their parents, Joshua and Margaret. And we already know that like Finn, has had issues with his own father being a terrible parent, and his mother he has a good connection with now, although it was a little rocky for a moment there. um, he did like make a good connection with his mother, so that's good. But he still does consider Joshua and Margaret his parents as well because they raised him, and he still sees them that way. And we see Jake, oh, Josh. Why did I almost say Josh? We see Jake fully thinks the same way as well. Even though they're not technic. Well, I guess Joshua's kind of his. I think that's why I said Josh. Joshua's kind of his biological dad as well. It's like he kind of has two biological dads. Um, Gays for the win. Because Warren Ampersand implanted his DNA into Joshua's head, and Joshua's through his head gave birth to Jake. So technically, Joshua and Warren are both Jake's biological parents. Margaret's the only one who's not. Poor Margaret, I guess. But either way, Jake sees them both as his parents, while he refused to call Warren his father. And it's also like kind of making a commentary on when a parent tries to come back into your life after having like maybe abandoned you. It's definitely like a commentary on that, and how like a lot of times these parents are like only doing it, especially if it comes out of nowhere, for their own sakes, for their own like desires or wishes. They're doing it to try and like help themselves for whatever reason. And this is not always the case, of course. Sometimes they do just genuinely want to reconnect in a healthy way. But there's a lot of occasions where, this kind of thing has happened, just obviously not with the sci-fi bullshit. And so it's a very relatable thing that I feel like kids watching this might be able to understand, because kids can be smarter than you think. And I think they'd be able to grasp like what this means. It's like, oh yeah, my dad also did some shit like this. Not saying some shit, but you know what I mean. My dad left and then tried to reconnect with me too, for bad reasons, stuff like that. And it's like this kind of message about how Jake's real parents will always be Joshua and Margaret. Like, he will never view Warren Ampersand as his father, despite, technically being correct. Just because he, is his biological father doesn't mean that he is his dad, basically. There's a lot of things in media you could compare this to. There's a lot of shows and movies and stuff that have done this kind of thing. The one that obviously comes to mind as a One Piece fan, I have to bring it up, is Sanji from One Piece. With, him considering Chef Zeph his father over his biological father, Vince Smoke Judge. Because Judge is a horrifically evil, terrible person who only comes back into Sanji's life to use him for his own goals. Yeah, kind of similar. Kind of similar here. But yeah, it's like it's just one of those kind of tropes that unfortunately are based in reality, and it's a really interesting and emotionally investing episode to watch because of that. Even if you've never gone through it yourself, it's like at this point, season 10, it's like you already have this, you already like Jake, so you're already going to be connected to him. You're already going to feel sorry for him for this kind of thing. And like when the reveal happens, it's just like, oh, come on, man. I wanted this to work out for him, and it's this shit. But you do genuinely have to wonder if Jake can teleport him out. Did he gain all of Warren's powers, or is it just the stretchiness? Because obviously the stretchiness is what he was using, what Warren was using to siphon the life force and power from Jake. But could Jake potentially use the other powers? I feel like he should be able to. But maybe it's because of the implanting into Joshua that's not how it works. I don't know. But it is very fascinating. And while this episode didn't have anything to do with the main conflict currently going on with like Gumball and all of that, this is the kind of episode that still works in that regard because it still like develops characters really well. It's still like a big thing that's like been set up. We've already had stuff like set up with Warren last season, right? Season 9. So it's like, yeah, this was worked towards for a bit now. And on top of that, it's just kind of important as well because it's Jake. It's one of our main characters, and it's literally like his origins and all. So this episode, while again not related to Gumball and all that, is still exceptionally relevant and important. Unlike Bananas, which was just needless. But that is these episodes. So just as a reminder here, next week we will be doing episodes 11 and 12. Then the week after that we'll be doing the Minecraft special. And then we'll do the finale, the 4-episode finale after that. So we have 3 more weeks of Adventure Time after today. And then we're going to take a break before we go to Distant Lands. That will be some point in the future. I don't know exactly when, but some point. And we might do Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake together because Distant Lands is so short. Kind of like how we did seasons 9 and 10 together here. But we'll tackle that when we get to that. Either way, we have only a few more weeks of this main series left, and then we're finally done. It's crazy that we're almost to the end of this, but I guess now we just see what happens next, see where it goes from here. So, in the meantime, tell me in the comments below what you thought of these 3 episodes. And no spoilers for what's to come. Do not spoil me on anything. But let me know your thoughts on these 3. So thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.